Well, hey folks, and welcome. Episode 100. Well, we finally made it of MLR Kickoff. Doesn't feel the same without the stats boy Aaron doing the intro, but I'll do my best. Dan Power with you alongside the Professor Pete Steinberg, and we are on the eve of the 2021 MLR Championship. This is a big day for everyone. The 100th show for us, Pete, and we couldn't pick a better location. We've come a long way from episode 1. We are now on the rooftop here at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. So welcome in everyone to the show for what it promises to be an absolutely huge weekend for MLR. Pete, let's talk firstly about the significance of where we are and what is ahead of us this weekend. It promises to be a great weekend of festivity. Ticket sales going outstanding, leading in Giltinis, ATL, probably the two best sides this year, you would say?
I think so. I mean, I think these are the two sides that have shown the most throughout the season. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about their full season, but LA came out of the blocks fast, been pulled in a little bit. ATL didn't start so well, but came strong at the end. So I'm excited to see two teams playing two different styles tomorrow.
Yeah, well, let's talk about pathways to where we are here. Who do you want to go first, east or west?
I think the pathways, I think we want to go west first.
West
first, yeah.
Giltinis, home side. So let's talk about their season first. What stood out for you as the Giltinis, message or their ethos for this season?
Well, I think it's really interesting. So I'm going to use my laptop here, Dan, because I'm a professor, but yeah. I can't remember anything. So let me pull up some of the stats that I was looking at a little bit earlier this week. First of all, I think it's really interesting to see how LA really came out of the block so quickly. They scored, and excuse all the numbers at the same time, but they scored 42, 57, 43, 48, 45, 47. First 7 weeks, everyone said LA's unstoppable.
Unstoppable.
Right? And then they came across New York, right? And New York were able to win that game 18-16. Okay? And they won that game, and it was really interesting. They won that game actually by dominating the possession of the ball, right? So what they said is that we're going to have the ball and we're going to hold on to it. Now, they didn't do much. They didn't do much with the ball. They had one line break the whole game, right? They scored all their points with kicks. And LA had 5 line breaks, but they weren't able to convert. From that moment, the Giltinis haven't scored more than 43 points. Sorry, more than 40 points. They've been in the 30s. I think their highest score, let me have a look, is 38 right after that. But they haven't cracked 40 points since that New York game. Yeah. So New York actually gave, I think, a little bit of a blueprint on how to hold on to the Giltinis. Now, if you remember, Dan, early on in the season, when did the Giltinis score all of their points?
First 20 minutes.
First 20 minutes. They blasted everyone out, and then they just kind of coasted. And I think what New York showed is if you can hold on for those first 20 minutes and you can go into halftime close, you can be competitive, and they really struggled the rest of that season.
Yeah, and a lot of the talking point obviously coming into this year with that roster was how do they survive the season? The attrition rate, we saw a lot of rotation from head coach Darren Coleman with some of his older players coming into it, and you go through some of their statistics and it's obvious, the number of games and minutes they played is significantly less off those superstars than maybe some of the other teams around the league.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, LA only have 2 players that have played over 1,000 minutes. So most other teams have 5, 6, 7 players. So that rotation's been really important. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about the preview at the end of the show, but I thought it was really interesting because they lost to New York, right? And they also lost to ATL. Now, New York dominated possession, held onto the ball. They also were able to play in the Giltinis half. They just held onto the ball. They didn't go anywhere. ATL, very different game plan for beating the Giltinis. What they did is they kicked. They gave up possession. They had like 36% of possession. Nothing, but they had 60% of the territory. So what they did is they said, we're going to kick and we're going to lead with our defense. So New York and ATL showed 2 different ways that you can beat the Giltinis. But it's really about, there's 2 things you have to do and what the Giltinis showed. So we started off, we talked about their attack. Their attack was amazing. Yeah. But actually, the thing that really stands out for the Giltinis is they have the best defense, and we probably have the 2 best defensive teams in the league here.
Yeah, we do. I think LA ends up with a 91% successful tackle rate, which over the period of a 16-game season is unbelievable. Like, not a blemish in there. And I think you can go through their record, Pete. What's the highest number of points scored against LA this year? I'll put you on the spot here real quick. Who scored the most points against LA?
Yeah,
I almost guarantee it came in a win for LA as well.
All right, let's have a look. So this is a really good question. Who scored the most points?
Utah, 34.
34. Oh, look at that. He's like, absolutely.
Utah, 34.
34 in the game where they
rested
and they rested their players, right? So they do have, and I was talking with James Patterson. He's going to be on the sideline.
Yep.
With you for the game tomorrow. And James and I were talking, and it's just interesting. We have two of the best defensive teams, but they're both very different.
Yes.
And I actually think that what LA have is they have the best defenders. Like, they don't really have a weak defender, maybe a little bit on the outside, but in the middle of the field, they've got great individual tacklers. ATL have a defensive system where you don't actually have to be a great tackler and a great defender. You play part of the system. So I think those are two different defensive patterns that we'll see on the game tomorrow.
All right, before we shift over to the East, give me your top 3 players for LA in 2021. Who stands out for you? 3, 2, 1. Pressure.
So that's a good question.
I'll go first because I put you on the spot. So we'll go, my number, in third place, I'm going to go Harrison Goddard. They're number 9.
Okay, yep.
Instrumental. Unbelievable young talent.
And it was really important last weekend, set up 2 tries with his vision. I agree. I think Harrison Goddard. Can I go with the second one?
Yep.
All right, so I'll go with Dave Dennis.
Yeah.
I think Dave Dennis is so important because their line-out is so important to their game. And Dave Dennis is probably one of the best line-out operators in the league. They score almost 60% of their tries with line-out being the source. He is absolutely critical to their success.
Yeah, and, I'll have to split number 1 now because my number 2 and number 1 I couldn't really separate. I'll go Billy Meeks and Angus Cottrell. I think the return of Angus Cottrell for tomorrow's game tips the scales towards LA for this game. We'll dive into that later, like you said. But Billy Meeks, probably the best back in the league this year by far. I think just his influence on the game, the way he controls the game, his defensive efforts, the way he gets over the ball, tough player, skillful player, great player. Angus Cottrell, what a bulldog he is.
Well, I think we've seen the struggle that LA have had in the last few weeks without Angus Cottrell. And it's not just he's their number 1 ball carrier, right? Especially as they've lost Adam Ash, right? So he's such an important ball carrier. He's physical, right? So he's super physical in the contact. And I think that he's a bit of a leader in that line-out. Like, their line-out really struggled last week, and I think having Angus Cottrell back will just calm everyone down, and he's just such a great leader for them in that forward pack.
Yeah, he certainly is. All right, what was your signature performance for LA this year?
So, interestingly, Dan's pulling me. I'm trying to get there's a lot of pressure here. I think that, to me, I think their best performance was probably the Utah game in Week 9 when they beat Utah 38-27. It was a great game. Yeah, that's right. It was in SoFi. Yeah, I remember that because you called that game, right?
I did. Yeah.
And I think that was an important game because what we've seen, and maybe we didn't know it at the time, but Utah was a really good team and they had a really good set piece, and LA, no problem. Like looking back, you can say, wow, that's probably a statement game because they won that game pretty easily. Okay, Utah came back at the end to make it closer, if you remember, Dan.
I'd like to do.
Yeah, as Utah does, right? They're really good in the last 20 minutes. But I thought that, looking back, is a real signature performance where you're like, all right, this LA, I mean, we knew that they were good. You can look at the first games, you can say, if we look, I mean, I thought one of the really interesting games was in Week 4 where they beat the Toronto Arrows 43-16 because in that game, Toronto actually kept it close at halftime, right? It was actually close. You're like, Toronto in this game, and LA just turned it on. Their ability to just score 2 or 3 tries in like 3 or 4 minutes separates them from. No one else can do that in the league.
That was the most confusing logistical game of the league for the year because you had LA playing Toronto, who were based in Atlanta, in New Orleans. I'm like, hang on, I got to figure this out. So Toronto are in Atlanta, but playing a home game in New Orleans against LA. Got it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so there was some geographical challenges. So
it was their first test on the road too, I believe, like real test on the road.
I think that's right. But it's that ability, and we'll see it tomorrow. And it's interesting because actually Atlanta's defense lends itself to having quick tries scored against them. What they do is they say, we're not going to let any line breaks. Right, their defense, they put everyone up in their defensive line. That means that there isn't much cover. So if you make the break and you make 2 passes, New York showed this when they beat Atlanta in the regular season, you make the break, you have someone like Andy Ellis supporting really well, you make a pass, and you're probably going to score. Yeah. And so, LA's ability to just explode and score from anywhere is, it doesn't matter. Like there's a little bit when you're going to be, it's a little bit where you're going to end up, with LA. If they make that line break, they're probably going to score. And they can do it from anywhere. So even if ATL kick the ball to them and say you can have it inside your 22, inside your half, LA can score from there. It doesn't really matter where they are. In fact, I almost think they're better from around the halfway line than they are near the line where you've got to grind it out. They're better where there's more space, there's more kick, pass options. I think that's where they're most dangerous.
I agree. From the opposition 40 to inside their 22, I think is where they do their best work. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll be looking at the Eastern Conference. But to take you out into the break, I want you to enjoy this. Some of the highlights, and there were plenty of them, from the LA Giltinis in 2021. We'll be back after this. No.
Bryce on the outside, DTH again. Thunderman gets a double within the first 8 minutes.
The ball carrier there was Ryan James, and here come the Giltinis.
Oh, wow. I think we may have a similar penalty coming up for the Blue Jays.
Okay. The back line, oh, wow. Great fake. Now they get rid of it. Here they come. Another pass, and it's going to be taken in. And
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. We are joined now by the head coach for the LA Giltinis, Darren Coleman. And Darren, final game in charge of LA for now. I don't want to curse the volatile coaching job at the Waratahs just yet, buddy, but final game for the Giltinis. Just give us a quick overview of, obviously, your American experience with LA.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Yeah, you've only got to look around here. This is where we come to work each week, so it's been really cool. The rugby, it's been a really positive experience. Obviously, we've had a solid season to date. Made some new great friends, and really enjoying watching the sport take off in America.
It was obviously a late get-together for your roster. You must have known with Adam Fryer and Hoylesy and the whole crew of kind of who you had coming in. But publicly, you go into camp in Maui, a little bit unknown, and then some big signings start getting announced for LA. Starting this year, what were your goals coming in for LA?
Oh, I think your goals have got to align with your owner, and we only wanted to win. So if you're not aligned with that, then you're probably not around for too long. We knew we were building a roster that could give it a shake. And once we got there and we got to Maui and we had a good camp and got going into the season, that was our target, and we're sort of still shooting for it.
Yep. So when you look back at the season, where do you think your team has grown the most in terms of throughout the season? Where do you think you're peaking as you come into the final?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think probably earlier we were maybe a bit of a one-trick pony. We had a lot of what's called flashy attack. We scored a lot of nice tries, and teams sort of had a bit of trouble hanging with our offense. And as the season progressed, teams sort of worked out how to defend us and put a bit more pressure in certain areas. And I think probably our best things now, we're a bit more well-rounded. We've taken a few good lessons during the year in our losses, which I'm glad we've had now. Probably the biggest one was the Atlanta loss. And then that sort of flowed on to now our defense. We may not be the most aggressive defensive team, but we've got pretty good confidence in our line integrity, and not too many teams are scoring a lot of tries against us.
So when you look at your American experience, what's been some of the most, surprising things about Major League Rugby? Coming over here, not maybe knowing a lot about the game in the US, what's really surprised you?
Well, I think obviously you just have a massive advantage with the sports culture in America. And funnily enough, we had a breakfast this morning for our supporters and season ticket holders, and I got around and chatted to a few groups, and 3 of the 4 people I'd chatted to didn't have a rugby affiliation before this year. They were three of those four pockets of people had come to rugby for the first time for the Giltinis. So that astounded me. I thought the people we had coming to the game were rusted on rugby people. So it gave me some hope and some spirit that we're already starting to delve into the population outside the general rugby population. So it's great.
Yeah, we're going to welcome in your captain now, Dave Dennis. He said you worked him pretty hard in the captain's run, that's why he's late.
Yeah, let's hope he's
rehab table.
Let's hope he's not as late to the breakdown tomorrow.
Big Dave, good. Great to meet you, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you. We're going to bring that down for you. There we go.
This is live, David. You got to be on. Hello, Captain.
So captain's run in the bag. Looked like spirits were pretty high for the eve of a pretty big game for a lot of these guys playing. Not a lot of pressure showing on the Giltinis. Is that something you're pretty happy about to come into this big game with?
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to tell the boys to try and relax as much as possible. We're still a long way from kickoff, albeit a 1 p.m. kickoff tomorrow. Still got a long way to go before we start the match, so we're slowly building. There's nerves, definitely, and there will be pressure in the game, but that's not happening yet. So this morning is just more around clarity, getting complete detail in our game, and getting excited about the opportunity that's ahead.
Yeah, Dave, you've had a long career, mate. You've obviously had a successful career in Australia, over in Europe. You've done a lot. What were the challenges you set for yourself to come over to the US and play with LA? Like, what was the lure to get you to MLR?
I think the biggest thing that appealed to me was trying to build something from scratch. I've been very fortunate to play at two very proud clubs in terms of the New South Wales Waratahs, which is my home club back in Australia, and then Exeter Chiefs in England, which is a very proud club as well with a long history. And it's easy to go into an organisation where there's culture established and people have worn the jersey before you. To come here and have a blank canvas, have no culture, not know a lot of the players. Obviously, a history with Darren and a few of the Aussie boys back in Australia. But outside of that, I just really like the idea of trying to be a part of something from scratch. And look, I think we've started positively, and I think there's a good future ahead for the Giltinis.
Just one more on the culture thing you mentioned. Did you ever imagine, as you built the culture here, it would involve Adam, Ashley Cooper and Matt Gutto and Gillies girls' outfits? Was that part of the plan for the culture building?
Well, the one thing I'll say when I talk about building culture and I'm part of is I want guys to be free to express themselves. Yeah. So Matt and Adam, they're obviously great mates. They're legends of the game, and if that's what they want to wear into work every day, then so be it.
So let's talk a little bit about tomorrow's game for both of you. So I'll open it up for both of you. When you look at the ATL team, tell us a little bit about what impresses you about rugby ATL and what they do well.
Oh, for me, I think they're just a tough team. They're tactically quite smart the way they play field position, and their set piece is really, really strong. You know, I've obviously in the engine room in the top five of our squad, and having had some experience, I know the importance of a good scrum and a good line out, and they've got that. So that's probably for me the most. They're the things I've been most impressed about, and you saw when we played over in Atlanta, they beat us in those areas. So they're a great side and deserved Eastern Conference champions. So it's going to be a huge test.
Yeah.
For me, it's probably the clarity. Like they got an identity. They're obviously really well coached. Scott's done a great job, and he's obviously recruited around the way he likes to play the game. And I got a feeling we know for the most part what's coming. We didn't probably as well as we should have last time we went there, and he's recruited players and conditioned them to a certain way to play the game, and it's up to us to figure out how to get around that or over it.
Now, when you look at your team, you have some extremes of experience, right? You've got guys that have played in World Cups, have had lots of finals rugby, and you've got guys that this is their first experience. What have you done to kind of build up some of those guys that have less experience? How have you helped them prepare for this week?
Yeah, I think they just get swept along in it. I think if you ask Dave and Gits and Adam, that even though for them it may seem, or for people it may seem like a smaller final, if you're emotionally invested in something, there's nerves. And I think our group's emotionally invested. I don't shy away from the fact that players are going to be nervous. I'm nervous. If you're not nervous, doesn't mean you care about what you're doing. So nerves are a good thing as long as you don't freeze. And I think our job now, we've built up the emotional side of it. We finished the tactical and technical a while ago, and now it's just making the boys relax and just enjoy the day and enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I want to get into a bit more of the tactical stuff for the game tomorrow. Now, you guys have had a lot of success at the line-out, and Dave, you're a big part of that, as not only the captain but the leader of the pack and the line-out. There were some issues last week. Utah, very competitive, pushed you quite hard in the line-out with Fortain, Jensen, Wilson, very aggressive at the line-out. ATL have come out, put Momsen at 8 to have a third jumper. So they've got now the two jumpers, Big Mano and Connor, and now putting Momsen. What have you addressed from last week, from the Utah game? And then obviously they're going to throw pretty much an identical thing at you this week, be very aggressive at that set piece.
Yeah, I think it's something I've been pushing all year long with the group, is the importance of just the focus around that restart of the game, whether it's a scrum or a line out. You've got to be totally focused on just the job right in front of you. And I think last week we just lost a little bit of focus, and our clarity and our communication broke down a little bit, and it hurt us. And that comes with pressure. Like you said, Utah put us under good pressure, and we probably just lost our way a little bit. So it's just about resetting. I've got total confidence in our set piece, and it's just a matter of being in the moment every time we get an opportunity to restart the match. And we're well aware of the pressure we're going to receive, but we've got to soak that up and enjoy it and take it on.
Yeah, DC, as far as the entertainment goes, you're in control of the entertainment. You've gone from Fat Man Scoop to Steve Aoki. Was that a bit of pressure from the younger playing group to say, hey, come on, give us something that wasn't in the 90s?
Yeah, no, I think that's more a Gilly influence thing. It took me a while to figure out who Steve Aoki is. I'm pumped to get out there and rock around with him or whatever we do.
I was watching Glenn Bryce on the. Or was Adam Ash? Who was on the?
Adam Ash.
Yeah, we've got some talented individuals.
Could have saved a bit of money. He was pretty good.
DJ Big Sexy. Yeah. He likes it. He's been spinning the disc for a few years apparently. So he'll be involved tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, he's a halftime show, I understand.
Is he?
We're starting to wonder if that injury is actually legit, if he actually just wanted to spin the decks. But, it's great. I think what Gilly's doing for the game, and if it gets a couple more thousand people in to get their first taste of rugby and half of them stick around, I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah, I think both of you, in the short time you've been in the US, sport here is an experience. It's not just a sporting event, it's an experience, and if you're not part of that, then you'll get left behind pretty quickly. So I think it's great what LA have done, and what you guys obviously delivered on the field as well to back up that. Everyone loves a winner, and LA have proven that this year. So excited. I'll leave you with this last one before we let you guys go and get ready for tomorrow. 80 minutes gone tomorrow. LA lifting up the shield. How did you do it? What was the thing that made the difference tomorrow for you guys? DC, I'll start with you, mate.
Yeah, I think all championships are won on the back of heart and grit. So, yeah, whether we do or don't score some nice tries, that's irrelevant. Like, if we defend our try line with everything we've got and turn them away, then that'll go a long way to win it. So probably our goal line stands and our D-zone defence will be the big thing for me.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm same as DC. Just that togetherness and showing we care for each other through the way we fight. I think it's going to be tough. There's going to be moments we're going to under pressure, and as long as we stand up and fight for each other and fight for our team, that'll get us a result.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Good 80 minutes, and a little revenge too. There's not too many teams you can say that in the league, but a little revenge on the mind for Atlanta tomorrow, so it should be good. Dave Dennis, captain of the Giltinis, Darren Coleman, head coach. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Go rest up. Excited for tomorrow. We'll hopefully be catching up after 80 minutes.
Go on, boys. Thanks for all your work. Cheers.
Thanks,
we'll take a quick break. We'll go to the break, taking a look at some of the highlights from the captain's run today. Nothing too technical, though, DC. Don't worry, we won't give too much away.
It was Deno's run, so I don't even know what they did, actually.
You'll see a little bit of dancing, actually. It'll be good. All right, thanks, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Like, we've done the fucking work. Yeah. Just believe that. Believe that it's going to come this weekend. Don't worry about it now. There's nothing we can do. We've prepared the best we can. Obviously, a little bit of detail to be right for captain's run, but we've done the majority of the work. Yeah. Now we just got to believe in it. Believe in what we've created and what we're fucking about. Yeah. Let's just play together. Don't worry about little shit. If things don't go right, don't worry about it. Move on. Yeah. Like they said, play by play. Stay in the moment. Keep competing for 80 minutes. If we do that, we can win. I promise you.
I think we just got to go out there and defend with that love and that attitude. That's our identity. Collectively, defensively. Go out there and love what you do. I can show how much you love each other, how much you love this team, how much you've loved the experience this year, this journey where we've all started from in our D, in our two-man, in our fast and hungry, spacing, everything, every bit of detail at our defence. Go out and show us, show yourself, show the crowd, show each other how much we love it. Right? And like Gid said, we defend like we're capable of. I promise you we'll win this game. Each moment at a time. Each defensive moment at a time we hit the
All right, come on, boys, bring the hype. Final. All right.
That's not hype.
Yo, here we go. I got it. Yo, it's the final. I got the chills down my spinal. My crew rolls all deep like we're vinyl. I got my big board Rydberg like a rhino. Who the is messing with me? Sobby the albino. Dreams, I'm here to chatter. MCs come against us, the blood is about to splatter. Atlanta, it's a load of banner, but we're coming with the heat and we'll make you screaming for Santa. You think you got a chance? Watch your body start to dance. Gonna run over you dudes, you wake up in France. My crew is here and we're coming with the stance. My crew is ready cause the beat about to go enhance. So let me go, let me steal the whole show. Giltinis here to drop a whole flow. But at the same time, here with the same rhyme. I got my crew here with my whole crew design. So let me just chill and stand and scale. Giltinis are coming at will, coming with everything, coming with here, coming at the end until the crowd is gonna cheer. The ship is here and we're here to fucking steer. I got the tingles cause the final is near. So let's just finish with an old school flavor. I got my crew here, finished like a raver.
I'm Dano.
Wearing my flannel.
Break it down.
I'm a white boy.
On your Frank.
Bring it down, Frank.
Giltinis on three. Stay up, Frank.
Don't go on three.
Frank.
Stay up, Frank.
Giltinis on three.
Welcome back. Another special guest, and they don't get any bigger than this, the Commissioner, George Killebrew. George, what a weekend. Firstly, 99-0. We are undefeated as of tomorrow when the whistle blows. What an achievement for you and your team to make that happen.
Yeah, it's a big deal. The league office is 99-0. Most of our teams would love to be undefeated, but we got 99 matches in without any stoppage because of COVID. And that's really, all about our players and our coaches and our trainers taking the protocols that our medical committee have put in front of us and sticking to them, and not taking shortcuts. And really, if you saw our teams travel, they looked like they were in hazmat suits. I mean, they took it seriously. And that's why we got to the end here without a defeat, and some of the more established leagues can't say the same. They had COVID outbreaks that caused them to, have to miss games. And so we're really proud of that. And that's, like I said, that's really on our players and our coaches and our trainers and our medical staff. So that just really did a great job.
Now that we've made it, did you think we were going to get through it this smoothly?
I didn't, because, to be very honest with you, I did not, because our players, a lot of them have like second jobs, and it's not like we can quarantine maybe like the NBA or the NHL was doing. So there was a lot of outside factors. I wasn't worried about our people. I think everybody took it really seriously, and we're going to do it, to the nth degree. But I was just worried about the outside exposure, and the fact that we got here is really a cool thing.
Can you talk a little bit about the commitment of the Toronto Arrows? I mean, in this COVID world, they went on the longest rugby tour ever. I think it was like 3 World Cups or something. I mean, just to make the league happen and for their season to happen was really an incredible commitment by players, staff of the Arrows.
Yeah, I've said, had the Toronto Arrows ownership called me before the season and said, hey, you know what? I think we need to sit this one out, because what we asked them to do was Herculean. We asked them to leave their country and move their entire rugby operations to Atlanta to share with Rugby ATL, and that was a big ask. And I was fully expecting maybe to get that call, and I would have been fine with that, because I thought, it'd be kind of a little bit unreasonable to have to do what they did. But, not just Toronto, but look at what San Diego went through. I mean, they were complete nomads, trying to play in Las Vegas for a while. And, I mean, it tells you a little bit to me about kind of the DNA of the sport. and the resiliency of our players and our owners, like we were not detoured at all. Like there was nobody blinking. Everybody was full speed ahead, whether it be the COVID protocols, whether it be the relocations. And here we sit today in beautiful LA, the day before the finals, and being on live on CBS tomorrow. I mean, it's a great day for Major League Rugby.
I think it's interesting you talk about the DNA of the sport, because as someone who grew up playing overseas, you know, in America, jumping in a car as a recreational rugby player, driving 4 hours, playing a game and driving back is normal. Right. Anywhere else in the world, they'd be like, you're crazy. But I think that DNA is, you're absolutely right. It translated into the commitment that the sport had, the players had, to make sure this season happened. I want to talk about something that happened this season that to me was really like changed the way I viewed MLR, which is the Rugby Network and the ability for us to all watch all the games. Right. I think that my family, we lost some time on the weekend, so I walk around with my iPad. But you can talk a little bit about the Rugby Network, maybe the partnership with Rugby Pass, and how that came about, and was, you know, right at the start of the season. I don't know if it was timed that way, but it was like, you know, a couple of weeks before this is going to happen, and it's just been remarkable.
Actually, the birth of the idea, the first time I met the Rugby Pass people was here in LA at the LA Sevens. And, you know, they were explaining to me that they were the leader in the space around the world, but they had really no presence in North America. And they said, you know, what would you think about doing a joint venture where we kind of join forces and we launch, you know, the Rugby Pass in North America as the Rugby Network? And I was all over it, because in our first few years, we were kind of like the least attractive client on like another OTT platform. So we were getting no publicity at all. And when I started hearing about it, I'm like, this is definitely the right thing to do. And then all the shoulder content that was going around and all these podcasts that were out there. Ben Foden's show now has a place to live. And then, you know, we asked them, you know, how do we define success, you know, in the first year? And they kind of gave us a number. They said, you know, if you could get to about 25,000 subscribers in the first year, we think that's about, you know, that we would define that as a success. Well, we got to 25,000 subscribers at the halfway point. You know, so this weekend we have a chance to really take that over 50,000 or get it at least close to it. So no question we did the right thing. No question we partnered with the right people, because they're experts and they're just great in the space. And then all the other shoulder content that we put around besides the MLR matches are making it a success, and it's part of our long-term strategy.
Yeah, and that parlays into my next question is, having that subscriber base, now you can go to organisations, and we partner up with American Airlines, Geico, Guaranteed Rate, Wintergreen, some great partners come in this year. I mean, my kids run around the house now because they hear me say 15 minutes could save you 15% of your car. Like, say it, Dad, say it. And the ad will come on, and they're like, oh, you do it better than that guy, Dad. And
well done, Dad. That's great stuff.
The whole season of saying it, George, it's ingrained in my head. I mean, I can go through it all. But now you have 50,000 consumers that you can go to these organisations, these blue chip organisations, and now's the time for them to say, we have to get involved with rugby.
Yes, exactly. And then secondarily, you know, when you start talking to television partners of the future, this is an asset that we own and we will continue to grow. And then when we're talking about at that great day where people are paying us a lot of money for our content, we also can say, and by the way, on our wholly owned OTT network, we have 250,000 people that are right here ready for you. And we can turn that over to you as a marketing piece when you talk about broadcast agreements of the future. So, yes, definitely on the sponsor side, have some critical mass, you know, for those names that you so eloquently just spit out, very like you do this every day, like I do. But also the tangential kind of ability to go to networks and say, hey, this is a captured audience that we have built. They have voluntarily registered to be on this. It's not like us making them.
Right. These are really committed consumers that are committed to the game. Right?
Exactly. Yep. Which, as a company, if you're a Geico or American Airlines or a Guaranteed Rate, that's who you want to speak to. Right. You want to speak to people that are committed to the things they do. So, it's been a nice launch for the Rugby Network.
All right. Pete, on the commercial side, anything else? Or we jump to the rugby stuff now?
Uh-oh. Now I'm in trouble.
You and I chatted at the start of the year, George, and you said, I want no one to go 0-16. I want no one to go 16-0. We ticked that box.
Yes.
You want close games. No league in the world is closer and more exciting than MLR. Like, the unpredictability is the only thing that is predictable in this league.
Right.
That you don't know what you're going to get. It's must-see television. Tomorrow, paint your dream picture for me. Don't have to name a winner.
Oh, trust me, I would never do that. Coach is still standing over there.
He's waiting to see what you
You
pick.
know, what you want tomorrow is just a really great showcase for the sport on CBS. It's our biggest stage, so you really want it to go down to the final possession. And if we get that, I don't care if it's high scoring, low scoring, or what have you, but if it does go down literally to the last couple minutes and the game's hanging in the balance and we get a try, as time's expiring, I mean, if that's the drama we want, unfortunately we can't script it out that way, but you asked what's the best,
Yeah,
that would be
we're
the
in
best.
Hollywood. I can see the Hollywood sign there, maybe.
Yes, hopefully we'll have the Hollywood ending that we're all looking for.
Yes, beautiful.
So, we're here at this amazing setting. I mean, I think for most of us that, have been involved in Major League Rugby since the start, I'm not sure we would ever believe that we would be here, right, at the Coliseum with this, amazing facility. And even back then being on sort of a main network, right? So it's obviously huge. Can you talk about, I think there's maybe some misunderstanding about the league and the owners, right? And so there's the league that runs the competition, but then the owners do so much. Can you talk a little bit about, what this group of owners, to get through COVID, but also not just to get through COVID, but to continue to grow the game, better facilities. We see more teams coming into their permanent facilities. Can you talk a little bit about how well the owners have done this season to keep the league growing?
Yeah, I mean, this was a very difficult season because at the onset, we were playing in front of empty stadiums. So there's no ability for some of these owners to monetize their investment. But, what attracted me to this job in the first place was our 12 owners, because they just have that DNA. They're pioneers. They want to make this sport succeed in this country and in Canada as well. And, if when you have a group like that you're working for, it makes things pretty easy. And each one of them, it's like an arms race. They all want to have the best of the best, right? So even I went to New England for their final game. They moved stadiums into Quincy, and they had their largest attendance that they've ever had in their history. So, franchise by franchise, they're taking these steps to get better and to be in better facilities and to draw more people and to have more sponsors, and it's really cool to see the internal competition amongst them. No one wants to be at the bottom, right? Everybody wants to be either on their way up or have a plan that maybe they're not in the perfect facility today, but they have a plan to get there in the future.
And can you talk a little bit about what the league is doing in partnership with the teams to help grow the game as a whole? Obviously, this is the pinnacle. This is the very top. But there's been a big push by the league to help and by the teams to develop the game below MLR and through the grassroots.
Yeah, it's crucial. The one thing that soccer has on us, not only does MLS, they turned 25, we turned 4, but, just the youth participation in that sport versus ours. And so every team has their own story of what they're doing at the youth level, at the academy level. Obviously, at the collegiate level, the sport does pretty well, and we saw that. The results of that when we did our draft last year, having over 425, I believe, athletes registered for the draft. The collegiate product is there and thriving, but it's the youth and the academy piece that needed some work, and all our teams are all, that was kind of the good news of having to shut down after 5 weeks last year, was you had some time to really put into those kind of plans, and there's not a team that's lagging behind or that doesn't know how important that piece is.
We have a terrible habit of looking forward instead of living in the moment. I'm guessing you're probably going to fall into that category too, George, but tomorrow you'll be having a beer to celebrate a successful year, but I'm sure you'll be planning while enjoying that beer. The draft is coming up. It's up next. I know that you and I were involved in the first one, and again, question marks, but it was a resounding success. We saw that this year, all 12 first-rounders playing, right. And then rookie underclassmen who came in, undrafted rookies who had an impact on the league. What else? What's the next big milestones that you're looking at for the league here?
Well, we've solidified our 13th team for next year. So the Dallas Jackals are full-fledged members of Major League Rugby now, with all the things that go with that. So, and that's a really strong ownership group too, led by the president of the Texas Rangers of Major League Baseball. So we're excited about the Jackals coming in. We're excited about just gaining some momentum and really, and hopefully as we lift out of this COVID cloud and we can really start concentrating on the grassroots business of the sport, which means really boring topics like selling season tickets and selling big group nights and having great local sponsors and having really robust local broadcast agreements and being a good community citizen and growing your youth rugby. That's what we need to get back to. Those are the fundamentals of sports marketing in this country, whether it's our league or anyone else's. And we got to get great at that so that as we come out of it and into next season, our stadiums are full. We're putting on a great show. It's not just obviously about the rugby. It's about the rugby-tainment, everything around it, which our teams are embracing. We're seeing teams add mascots. We're seeing them add contests in the game. We're seeing halftimes just like we see in the other leagues. And we've been kind of preaching that from day one when we got here. But now I think people are really starting to understand why that's important. I think when the league started, it was just a bunch of rugby guys that said, let's start a professional rugby game and the rugby fans will show up and life's good. And now we're realizing it's got to be way more than that. We have to have something for everyone. So rugby's the core product. But, we use the analogy, if you're sitting around the dinner table on a Wednesday night with, the wife and kids or what have you, and you're talking about what are we going to do on Saturday, we have to be the answer to that question. And the only way we're the answer to that question is we have something for everyone sitting around the dinner table. So maybe somebody's turned on by the rugby piece, but it's fun, there's mascots, there's good food, parking is easy, and all those things that you have to do in order to get people to attend things in North America these days. You have to have something for everyone, and we've been pounding in that message, and I think it's really come through, although it's been a difficult year with COVID. But as we go into next season, no excuses. Like these should be events. Yeah. It should be places like this and great backdrops like this, and Steve Aoki playing, post game, and this is major.
You're just telling me you're a huge Steve Aoki fan. Yeah.
We are very good friends. Actually, I met him last week.
Tomorrowland.
For the first time.
We're going to Tomorrowland when it starts again to see Aoki together.
I got to meet him last week in New York, and he didn't know anything about rugby. We started talking, and fast forward to today. But having that kind of world-class entertainment associated with our sport and our game is really important, because each of these teams only have 8 home games, so they have to become events. You can't take a day off, right? All 8 of these home games for each of our teams have to be a show. And I think everybody gets to that now, and I think everyone's really looking forward to next year where we're not under a lot of these restrictions, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually excited for Halloween in Boston and a bunch of kids dressed up as Woodgie running around. I know Mags and Eric will be thrilled if they can see a bunch of little Woodgies running around the neighbourhood as well. All right, we're going to thank the Commissioner, George Killebrew, for joining us. I'm sure you've got a quiet weekend, not much else on your plate, George, but get back to it. Enjoy the game tomorrow if you can.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to catching up during the off-season.
Will do. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. George Killebrew will go to break now with some of the action from Rugby ATL throughout the season.
Marco Keith, welcome to ATL. The new signing gets a try.
To look forward to against the Los Angeles Giltinis on CBS?
Well, we all know they got a lot of big names, a lot of stars. They're fantastic rugby, so we'll prepare really good for them.
It's going to be a spicy one. Obviously they came down here last time we played them, and we put on a really great defensive stand, and hopefully we can show some spiciness, in our attack as well.
Highlights in there. Only low light I saw, Pete, was Mike Petrie's shirt, but we'll be able to fix that. Let's talk now Eastern Conference, the road here for Rugby ATL. Coming into this season, Pete, Atlanta, kind of a little under the radar, but I think that suits who Atlanta is. They don't want to be on anyone's radar. They like being, don't talk about us. We'll walk quietly, carry a very large stick, and a large stick it was. They absolutely physically dominated the Eastern Conference. Their defense is their foundation. What stood out for you for ATL this year?
Well, I think it's interesting because if you look at ATL, they didn't have a strong start to the season. They were 3-2. They lost 2 games in a row, right? So they lost to New York and then a close one to the Gilgronis, and 2-3, really, really struggling. I think the most important game for them was that NOLA game, right? NOLA came in and they really came out of the blocks fast. I think it's where Adrian Carlosay, I think it was his third game since came in, but he really blossomed in that game playing at fullback. And, they dominated NOLA, which we know is a good side. And that led them to, I think it was 6 wins in a row, including against the Giltinis. And that's when they really started to squeeze teams defensively. They really started, there's a lot of teens scores against them where people just weren't able to score. I think the challenge for them has been being able to score enough points themselves. So we saw that, I think, last week against New York. They were dominant, but their ability to get over the line has been a real challenge. I think there's 2 things that have really separated Atlanta. So one is this defense. If you followed us on the podcast, I love the way they play the defense. They're physical. They create 2-player tackles. They come off the line. I think that's been really important for them. And the second thing has been their bench, particularly in the set piece. They've really been able to bring strong players off the bench. They've had lots of type 5 depth. And so when it's been close at 20 minutes to go, they're a bit of a Utah, right? When it's close at 20 minutes to go, that they'll bring fresh lengths. I mean, Ross Deacon's been phenomenal coming off the bench for them. He's been a bit of a try-scoring machine, even though he's only playing 30 minutes a game. He started last week, but is back on the bench tomorrow. So that bench has been really, really important for them.
Yeah, for me, one of the big things is you look at the LA roster and you can see, obviously, 100 Cat Wallabies. You can see these international stars. There's no one on that roster at ATL that jumps out to me as oh, wow, I know that guy, from Global Rugby. But it's a system that's in place down there that everyone buys into. And getting the best out of players to me, Jason Dahm. Who was Jason Dahm before the season started? All of a sudden, he's unstoppable. Ball-carrying machine, tackling, everything. He's great. Mark O'Keefe gets kind of sent away from New York, goes to the Tens, not signed, a couple of weeks before the season. Bam, has a great year in the centres for Atlanta. They just got the absolute best out of the players they had on the roster, and to me, that's what made them such a great team. Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think one of the things in that 2-3 start, is I think that for Scott Lawrence, the coach, he was just finding out who can play in the system. Right. I think one of the things I really like about what ATL does, I think Utah does it as well, is that they actually have a year-long program. And so they had the 404 team, which I think is where Jason Dahm kind of blossomed. So their developmental program that played in the fall. And we have a lot of players that have come through that have done really well. I think Dahm's probably the biggest one. But in those first few games, I mean, I don't think they had all the guys that they were supposed to have. There were a few guys that came missed. I think Grunfeld came in a little bit late. Carlosay came in a little bit late. But I think there was a lot of kind of working out how that system can play and who can play in that system. And because they're led by defense, it's really about the effort and who's able to really put that effort in. And because they build that wall, it's about who can get off the ground quickly, rebuild that wall the quickest, and learning who can do that, because that defense is one of those defenses that's only as strong as the weakest guy. The guy that isn't launching hard is the guy that, or isn't able to get off the ground. That's where the weak link is, and you've got to find 15 or 23 guys that can do that. And I think as the season went on, I think ATL found that, and they really found that in that 6-game winning streak where they were just really phenomenal. Well, and they've got a great pipeline. I've got to tell you, I was recently at the Under-23 Academy in Glendale helping out Mike Tolkien, my old coach down there, with some of these young kids. The number of ATL backpacks I saw, kids in their academy in the 404, and I'm like, I really like the looks of that kid. And then he put on his ATL backpack. So, I mean, ATL fans, the future is bright down there. They've done a good job with recruiting.
I will say that there's 2 concerns about ATL. We saw it a bit last week. So the first one is penalties, and in particular, the penalty at the ruck. That's been a challenge for them all season. It's a little bit based, I think, primarily because they're so physical. They create dominant tackles. They hit ball carriers, they knock them back. It's very messy. And so when you're the tackler and you get up, the ball's right there because you're over the top of it because you had a dominant tackle. And I think they've improved that discipline a bit, but it's still been off and on. So that discipline at the tackle and at the ruck, I think, has been a problem. And the second thing is being able to take their opportunities, right? You know, we saw it last week. We've seen it in others where they've really, had the lineup, but the lineup hasn't quite executed. And I think that's kept some of their games probably closer than it really should have.
Okay, we did this with give me your signature win now for Atlanta. And I'm going to make it a little harder for you, Pete, because you know I like to do that too. It can't be the LA win. What's their signature win?
Well, I'm going to come back to, can it be the win I already talked about? Because I think that NOLA win, right, that NOLA win in week 6 where they were 2-3 is what really launched them. It was the first of their 6 game. And I'll come back to, at the end of that 6-game streak, there was a game with NOLA where they won 8-7, right? So I think those 2 NOLA wins that bookend that 6-game winning streak, because at the end of that 6-game winning streak, they were top, and they really kind of knew what they needed to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like by the end of that 6 games, they were like, okay, now we know what we need to do, and they can relax. What about you, Dan? What do you think their signature?
The LA win. That's why I couldn't let you have it. I'm going to take it for myself. No, I mean, it was one thing like New York. Like I get New York, like there's the upset element to it. Like right. You can spring the trap. LA came into Atlanta, and Atlanta, that was just a bruising game.
Yeah,
like I physically actually felt sore the next day from watching it and being tense. And but it sets up obviously tomorrow, which is brilliant.
So here's so that win was 17-12 to Atlanta, right? So I think that we can make a prediction about the chances of the different teams, right? So if there's a 1 in front of the scores for each of the teams, Atlanta probably has the advantage. If there's a 2 in front of each of the scores, maybe a little bit LA.
Yep. Yeah.
If there's a 3 in one of the scores, it's probably LA, right? So it's interesting, like the tighter the game stays, for the longer, I think the greater advantage it is to ATL.
All right, let's do our 3-2-1s now for ATL for the season. Third best player, if you were picking right now.
So I really like Johan Momsen, the lock. I think he's been a great ball carrier for them. He's really active around the field in the ruck, and obviously a very, very strong line-out jumper. We talked about that with DC. They've added another line-out jumper in there.
I'm going to go Matt Heaton. I think when he was out, they just didn't look the same. I think him coming back from injury at the back end of the season is really big for them. Just an amazing defensive leader as well. Strong tackler, makes his tackles, nuisance at the breakdown. So I'll go Heaton. Who's number 2?
So I think Bautista Ezcurra. He's someone that, an Argentinian sevens guy, has played a little bit all over the back line, but ended up being the primary 10, right? Even though he probably isn't a 10. I mean, I think they started, they were looking around for someone that can play the system. I think Van Schalkwijk started at 10 the first 2 games, wasn't working. Ezcurra stepped in, and he's such a good player on the front foot. He's such an attacking player. He attacks the line. He's a good defender. He's playing 12 with Kurt Coleman at 10, and I think 12 is his best position, but I think Ezcurra's had a really, really great season.
I'll go Adrian Carlosar. I felt he was the circuit breaker that ATL kind of needed, because a very regimented, structured team, and that was the foundation of the success. But as you know, in rugby, sometimes you need a little X factor, right? A little circuit breaker in there. I thought Carlosar provided that, and when he moved to 10 and kind of played a bit of 15 as well, just gave that little bit of X factor, a little bit of unknown. When he has the ball in hand, he can make some magic happen. All right, number 1, who have you got?
So I'm going to go a bit of a wild one here.
I love
maybe a little bit different.
You get wild, Pete.
So I'm going to give a big shout out to the Type 5, because I think Chance Wengluski has been a phenomenal player for them. So we heard Dave Dennis and Darren Coleman talk about the strength of the set piece of ATL. I think Chance Wengluski's been just a phenomenal player for them. He's very active around the field, really solid in the scrum. And, I would say it's probably, him and Grunwald, maybe both of them together are the number 1, because I think that pairing's been really strong for the ATL team.
That's a good pick. I'm actually going to steal your number 3 for my number 1. I'm going Johan Momsen. I am a massive fan.
I didn't realize I could do that. I'd have probably gone with Carlso, but okay.
Massive fan of Johan Momsen. If you're if you're a young lock, come in close on me here. I really want you to feel the intensity here. Zoom in, come closer to me. Bring it in to the beautiful face. There it is. If you're a young lock and you're watching Major League Rugby tomorrow, watch Johan Momsen. Don't watch the game, watch Johan Momsen. That guy is everywhere, in everything. Lineouts, set piece, phase play, leadership. If you could package him up, I would buy him and give him to my mum on Mother's Day. That's how special he is. Johan Momsen, MVP for ATL, in my book, Pete.
No, I think it's a good shout, Dan. I think it's a good shout, and I think he's playing at 8 tomorrow, and I think that's it's going to be very interesting to see how that works out. We know he's going to be an asset in the line-out. We know that he's going to be an asset around the field, but he's able to control the base of that scrum. We know that the scrum and the line-out is going to be important, but I don't want to preview the game.
Yeah,
we have that coming up.
Do have that coming up. And we will step away for a short break. When we return, we're actually going to be joined by Scott Lawrence, head coach of ATL. And we're going to have a couple of rugby ATL players with us as well. So don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
Mark O'Keefe, welcome to ATL. The new signing gets a try.
What do you have to look forward to against the Los Angeles Giltinis on CBS?
Oh, we all know they got a lot of big names, a lot of stars. They're fantastic rugby. So we'll prepare really good for them.
It's going to be a spicy one. Obviously they came down here last time we played them and we put on a really great defensive stand. And hopefully we can show some spiciness, in our attack as well.
All right, we are back. It's a tight little bunch here. Don't worry, we're all vaccinated, so it's all good to go. We have, starting at the top of the pecking order, he's giving me that look now. He looks like John Voight and Anaconda with those eyes. I'm terrified already. Scott Lawrence, head coach of ATL. Ryan Nell, captain of ATL. Matt Heaton. How you doing, boys? Welcome. Scotty, we'll start with you, mate. What a year, right? We just talked about it coming into the season. Not too many people were talking about ATL as title contenders. I get the feeling internally, though, this is where you thought you were going to be, and now you're here. How's the season panned out for you?
I think for us, it's, we just set out to get better every week. Starting from last week to this week, that's just the goal. So the fact that we're here, that's a blessing. That's good. It's not the end goal for us. We want to grow as a franchise. We want to do something that's special for the city of Atlanta, and we just tried to do that every week.
Yeah, and it was a different year coming into this because not only are we dealing with, COVID and all that stuff, but you also have a second MLR team that you're sharing a facility with. Obviously, everyone owes a huge debt of gratitude for Toronto for making their sacrifice, but also for you and your staff as well. How was it having Toronto kind of in your backyard for the season?
It was wonderful. I think we felt, for the Toronto players to be away from their family and friends for that long. It's very tough, and that's just the nature of our sport and our league. We're all in this together, and we were more than happy and grateful to have them in our facility and in the city and around our players. And we developed a good relationship with their coaching staff and players all the way on down.
So I've got a question for the players that we have here. So when you guys look back, the coaches always have a certain view, but when you guys look back over the season, what do you guys think has been the reason that you're here? What's been really strong for you that has allowed you to get all the way to the final?
I think at the end of the day it was hard work and just the way the team pulled together. Guys were selfless, playing for each other, and that's kind of what became a pillar for us as teammates.
Yeah, just to touch on exactly what Nelly's just said, it comes down to the boys. We've got a great group of guys who are willing to put in the work week in, week out for each other, and I think we really bonded around that, and we just took it in every week, just trying to get better and better, and here we are.
Yeah. Now, you guys didn't have a great start to the season. You were 2-3. There were some struggles in terms of, I think, trying to get the system in place, and then you went on the run, right? So there's that 6-game winning streak, and at the end of the 6th game, it was like, top of the league, we kind of control what we do. Can you talk a little bit from a player's perspective about that run and sort of how the confidence grew, and what do you think the key was to be able to keep that momentum going through those 6 games?
Yeah, well, it's never how you start, it's how you end. But it was important for us just to kind of break the process, like Coach said, week for week, and we just wanted to get better week for week, and that kind of started building some momentum for us.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a cohesion thing as well. We forget our season was cut short last year, so we really haven't as a group gelled, and I think it took there's a little bit of a learning curve to kind of figure out when you play with new players, what the tendencies are or what their skill sets are and what their skill sets aren't. And then eventually we kind of just gelled as a unit and found a system that we play really well as a team. So
let's talk a little bit personally, because both of you had an interesting year in terms of injury, right? Both healthy at the right time of the year. How was that time out watching the team kind of go through the paces, especially for you, Nelly, because you had quite a stint on the sideline there. You come at the back end of the year, and it's a massive luxury for Scott and the rest of the boys to have you come back into this side. But how was that while you were out rehabbing, getting healthy again, and kind of watching the boys go on that run?
Yeah, you're eager to get back on the field, but it was good playing my part off the field as well, and just as excited to be on the field now at the moment. Really enjoying it.
Yeah, and for you, Heat's injury a bit later in the year, obviously you were a huge part of that. I thought you were, at one point, probably the best player in the league, definitely at your position. I know you had Lucas Rumble, who's now back in Toronto, not at the championship. Lucas, yeah, you heard it. He's number one 7 in Canada. But you had a late kind of I know the borders open next week, don't they? You're good to go. But how was that late? Obviously, the finals were never in threat for you, were they, in terms of your injury? But how was that time out and kind of getting to hit refresh with obviously the Canadian obligations as well?
It was weird. I've actually never had an injury that's kept me out that long, so it was a bit of a learning curve for myself personally, just to figure out where your kind of mindset goes in those situations. And I spoke a lot with Nelly and kind of got a feel for what I kind of could be doing when I wasn't on the pitch. So yeah, it was a bit of a learning curve for me, but I was really proud of the work ethic the guys put in, and it was good to actually see it from the injured point of view, to see how hard the guys train. Because when you're in the environment, it's just what I mean. You just kind of go through the motions. So to actually see, the work getting put in by the guys and all the little extras and things like that, it was a really proud moment for me. So when I got the opportunity to kind of trickle back in, I was refreshed and excited to get back in with the guys. So.
Yeah. Now, so let's talk about the sharp end of the season. You guys had, a slightly physical game last week against New York, right? That was a very physical game. So first of all, I'm going to ask you, Scott, how was the week, and then we'll ask the players how the week was. So we'll talk about what's the recovery process that you come from when you come off a game like that? Has this week been different, the same? How have you approached the week coming off such a physical, tight, and probably emotional win last week?
Well, our athlete performance guys do a real good job of monitoring the men and making sure that we've got a good plan around it. So, as you get later in the season, you rest a little longer before you train again, and train a little bit shorter and more intense. So, only about 3 sessions really in total this week, and just very focused on what we needed to do. It's not a whole lot of changes at the moment. You just follow the process and look at the things that we need to improve. So we spent the first half of the week recovering and looking at ourselves very closely from the semifinal, making sure that we invested in those things and that we got them shored up. And then we took a little bit of a peek at LA.
And so, Nelly, you having been out just coming back. You probably feel as fresh as like fresher than anyone else. But also you need to get into like the season, right? So the first couple of games are actually where you might feel, but you feel it, like you feel good physically, and is the team like coming into this? You know, do you guys? Is it excitement, nerves? What's the sense of the group?
I think a good balance between the two. Definitely, you know, when it comes to our prep, we've been through long weeks, we've had short weeks, so it's kind of we've got the rhythm of the process that we need to follow, so we kind of stick to that. And again, it's good to be fresh, but there was a good period of about 5 weeks that you work hard before you earn your way back onto the field as well.
Yeah, I think like Nelly said, you get into a little bit of a rhythm and you start to get a feel for what you need to do throughout the week to make yourself ready for the weekend. So like Scott kind of touched on it there, we spent a lot of time just focusing on recovery and getting a lot more mental reps in, just making sure that everybody's sharp and on point. So it was, I would say it's the same week as we've had all season, just trying to get better.
Yeah, now let's talk about tomorrow, obviously. That's why we're here. You play LA tomorrow, one of the few sides that has a win over LA. Scott, what have you seen, not only in that game where you got the win, but from the body of the season that feels like you've got a game plan to beat them tomorrow?
I think for us, it's the game plan is just to be the best version of us, and that's it. I mean, if that's good enough, that's good enough. If it's not, then we've still won. So I'm not going to say that we look at LA and think any differently. They're a team of superstars. They are a team. They're not just superstars, and they play well together, and they're formidable. That's why they're here in the championship. But again, guys, for us, it's just about getting better. It's just about being the best version of us, and if that's good enough, we'll win.
Yeah, Nelly, before we jumped on air, you were saying you can't wait to be the man that retires Adam Ashley Cooper. Do you want to elaborate on that? Just kidding. For you, obviously, that lays ahead of you tomorrow. They're a great centre pairing. You guys have a great centre pairing as well. What are you excited about tomorrow for the game?
When you go out onto the field, you want to play against the best. So that's another opportunity to do that. That's kind of how you measure yourself. So it's a good challenge for us as well. And hopefully we can live up to that.
Yeah, and heats obviously run in. For you, it's a little different. The one-on-one battle is almost 1v8 in the forward pack because you're taking on everyone. Who jumps out to you as someone you're going to have to keep an eye on tomorrow, and then obviously what excites you about the game tomorrow?
Cottrell's been good for LA all season, so I think we'll just keep an eye on him. But yeah, I think as a forward pack, we're just really excited to go out, and it's a monumental challenge, and we know that, and I think that's what we do really well is we rise to the occasion. So that's been the mindset, is focus on us, be the best we can, and go out and perform.
Yeah. Pete, final thoughts here for the...
Well, I mean, just if there's what's a memorable moment for you guys this season? What's something that like 20 years from now you'll look back, could be on the field, could be off the field, but like 20 years from now you'll look back and you'll tell your kids about something that happened this season?
Winning the Shield, I bet. What do you reckon?
Well, that's maybe if you win the Shield, hopefully that's it. But let's say that's happened so far. Something that stands out for you guys.
For me, it was when Eamon Matthews was named into the lineup and got game time in New England. He worked incredibly hard all season. He was dedicated in our Red Scout team, and just the reaction in the room from all the men when he was announced in the squad was something where it was really special for all of us, really.
For me, it was actually just the first week before the season started. We had a cold start to the week, and it was just a special way to see how the guys were really just buying in and kind of working hard, and that kind of set the tone for where the season's going to go for us. So that's something I'll always remember.
Smashing Lucas Rumble?
No, but it was the fire and ice for me. It was, I'm friends with all the Arrows guys, and it was good to have that little bit of leverage now when we have a bit of locker room banter. So it was great.
It's good stuff. All right, we'll let you get. I know you got Captain's Run coming up now. So, Scott, you're a world-renowned jokester. Any jokes for me? Any new ones?
No.
There it is. There it is, Scott. Scott Lawrence. Appreciate it, brother. As always, a pleasure. Right, now, Matt Heaton, the boys.
Thanks.
ATL, they're going to go perform their captain's run now, their final preparations for a big game coming up tomorrow against LA. We'll take a short break. When we do, we're going to dive into the world of MLR television like you've never seen before. So don't go away. That's coming up next.
Like, we've done the fucking work. Just believe that. Believe that it's going to come this weekend. Don't worry about it now. There's nothing we can do. We've prepared the best we can. Obviously, a little bit of detail to be right for captain's run, but we've done the majority of the work. Now we just got to believe in it. Believe in what we've created and what we're fucking about. Let's just play together. Don't worry about little shit. If things don't go right, don't worry about it. Move on. Like they said, play by play. Stay in the moment. Keep competing for 80 minutes. If we do that, we can win. I promise you.
I think we just got to go out there and defend with that love and that attitude. That's our identity. Collectively, defensively, go out there and love what you do. And show how much you love each other, how much you love this team, how much you've loved the experience this year, this journey where we've all started from in our D, in our two-man, in our fast and hungry, our spacing, everything. Every bit of detail at our defence. Go out and show us, show yourself, show the crowd, show each other how much we love it. Right? And like Gid said, we defend like we're capable of. I promise you we'll win this game. Each moment at a time. Each defensive moment at a time we hit.
All right, come on, boys. Bring the hype. Final. All right.
That's not hype.
Yo,
Speak of this. Here we go.
I got it. Yup. Yo, it's the final. I got the chills down my spinal. My crew rolls all deep like we're vinyl. I got my big board Rydberg like a rhino. Who the is messing with me? Sobby the albino. Dreams, I'm here to chatter. MCs come against us, the blood is about to splatter. Atlanta, it's a load of banner, but we're coming with the heat and we're screaming for Santa. You think you got a chance? Watch your body start to dance. Gonna run over you dudes, you wake up in France. My crew is here and we're coming with the stance. My crew is ready cause the beat about to go enhance. So let me go, let me steal the whole show. Giltinis here to drop a whole flow. But at the same time, here with the same rhyme. I got my crew here with my whole crew design. So let me just chill and stand and skill. Giltinis are coming at will. Coming with everything, coming with here. Coming at the end until the crowd is gonna cheer. The ship is here and we're here to fucking steer. I got the tingles cause the final is near. So let's just finish with an old school flavor. I got my crew here, finish like a raver.
I'm Dano.
Wearing my flannel.
Break it down.
I'm a white boy.
$5. Bring it down, Frank.
Giltinis on three. Giltinis on three. Stay up, Frank. Stop going on three. Stay up, Frank. Giltinis on three.
Freestyling of Alex Corbacero. Hopefully that forward pack is freestyling scrum time tomorrow for LA. We are joined by a very special guest now. Show 100. We blow the budget out. We bring in the biggest names. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a late pardon for Joe Exotic, so we get Reese Edwards instead. Now, might be everyone at home's like, Reese Edwards, who's Reese Edwards? Well, let me tell you, the magic of television, not just in America, but the world, has had this man's fingerprints all over it. He has done World Cup finals, Wimbledon, right? The Olympics.
Yeah.
In any significant television moment, this guy is involved with it. And you are, give us your title again, you are the Welsh Wizard, a.k.a. the what? For MLR.
For MLR?
Yeah.
Technical Director.
Technical Director. Even he weighs it down. He's the assistant to the Technical Director.
Yeah.
Reese, mate, obviously we've worked with you all year. Pleasure to have you here on the show finally.
It's my pleasure.
Let's talk a little MLR television because surprisingly, it's a hot conversation in MLR. A lot of people like to talk about the TV side of the game here.
Well, it's good to hear, Dan, and congratulations to the two of you on your century or the 100th programme.
Tip of the cap.
But yeah, it's been, hey, look, it's great to be involved with it. And I mean, I guess this is the, the perfect kind of end, isn't it? The final, the occasion, everything that goes with it. We've been working towards it, all season, as you both know. It's, a little like the game itself. It's about teamwork,
Yeah.
and there's a huge team, a huge production team. I'm just one of them, and that's probably the best way I can sum it up.
If you had to name, like, every team has a captain, like a leader, a star. If you had to name the star off the team, who would you name?
Well, Pete knows that I'm going to name him. No. Hey, look, so many names, as you know,
So
Dan, and it's often the guys behind the camera that do the hard yards, so to speak. You guys, obviously, the talent are always so important to the production, of course. But again, that's what's pleasing about it. Like the game, we're all in it together. We're all, doing our little piece to put it, to put the best product out there that we can, and it really feels that as if 2021, to not have any interruptions like we did last year has been fantastic.
So let's talk about some of the challenges. Obviously, you've done a lot of stuff in the UK. You work with people that have like decades of experience in broadcasting rugby, from producers to cameramen. What are some of the challenges that you face when MLR is creating 6 shows on a weekend in 6 different locations? What are some of the challenges that the team faces?
Yeah, that's a good point, and particularly about camera crews. I mean, listen, this is America, the best sports production on the planet. So we know that we have a lot of good, strong production talent across the board. But if camera operators have never either seen the game or worked on the game, we have to try our best to give them an idea in a very short space of time about the best way to do it. And so I would say that's one of the biggest challenges we're faced with, and it's testament to their standard as professionals that actually for most games we're able to do it and get it done properly.
So let's get a little technical, because this is sort of where I want to kind of pick your brains a little bit, because rugby's kind of unique in a field sport, right? So there's, so for everyone listening, there's camera 1, which is the big wide camera, right? So that shows you as much of the pitch as possible. There's camera 2 that's kind of from the same place, that's close in. Then you've got cameras kind of dotted around in other spots. And in most sports, it's almost all camera 1, right? So why is rugby different than maybe soccer or American football? Like, what makes it more difficult to direct?
Well, it's more to do with, because of the dynamic of the game, and you're right to say it's that combination of wide expansive play combined with tight play, and getting the blend right between that camera cut makes all the difference in terms of the appreciation of the game to the viewer. And with any sport, what you're trying to do with television coverage is give them the best possible view of that sport and put them in the best seat in the house. So with rugby, and what's unique about it is, if you covered rugby on one camera, wide angle the whole time, you'd have no idea about the tight stuff. So you have to get that balance right. And from my experience, that's what I've noticed, is that if you're talking about soccer or tennis, where you can rely on one camera, get it done, see the whole picture, and that's fine. With rugby, you've got to think about those moments and think about those camera cuts and put people in that position. And in a way, it's, you can actually put a strong argument together that sometimes done properly, rugby is actually a better sport to watch on TV at times, because it'll show you something that if you were sat maybe at the back of the stand, you might miss it, because you can get nice and tight. So maybe that's a part of the challenge as well, and trying to stay true to that.
All right, what's your highlight of MLR? You've been here a few years now. Like 2019, you come over. We get the season done in 2019. 2020, as we know, is a nightmare for everyone. Now you've done your second full season. What's your MLR highlight?
It's working with such great people. The challenge that we've spoken about, and helping the coverage of the game develop. It's important to all of us, and for me, 2019 was great. Getting involved in the first place was a great thing, and that final in San Diego, what an occasion, what a day it was, and then to now sort of fast forward, have the disappointment of last year, and then have a season like we've had, and end up here with this amazing showpiece tomorrow. You know what? For me, it'll be tomorrow. That's it. Plain and simple. Can't wait.
All right, give me your wish list now. One thing that you'd love to have at your disposal.
What, for tomorrow?
Just in general.
15 extra cameras.
15
maybe?
Let's talk about that. So how many cameras are we going to have tomorrow? And how many cameras do you have when you direct the World Cup final?
Well, when you're talking international rugby, you're talking maybe up to 35 cameras. But listen, we've got a really good specification tomorrow. We've got 6 cameras, but we've got really strong operators. We're going to be in a really good position to do justice to the product and service TMO, which is really important. And so you can't really compare kind of like for like. The important thing is actually that the coverage of the game, the main coverage of the game, only requires for the vast majority of it those 3 cameras. And so, as I said, that certainly won't be a problem.
So are you going back to World Rugby and the guys there and being like, you don't need 30 cameras? Like, we can put on a good show with 6, which save you a lot of money.
As you can imagine, I think with those bigger events, it's probably more to do with replay angles and the colour and the atmosphere and not missing anything.
I saw the British Lions, and there was like the potential try by South Africa, and I swear they had 12 different replay angles, to see if they could put. So let's talk a little bit about the TMO, because we've had the TMO during the playoffs. Can you talk a little bit about like how we want that to work? And obviously it's new, and so we had some really great use of it in the semis. So talk a little bit about like what the expectation is for the TMO tomorrow.
That really it's about making the right decision or helping the officials make the right decision, and that's it. And what we're going to try and do and attempt to do is and only if we need it through our angles be able to maybe clear something up, or say for definite that the grounding was good, or maybe there was a foot in touch, so we reverse it. But as long as we can do our best to offer those angles, make it a quick decision, and the important thing is to make sure that the decision is the correct one. That is it. And actually the fact that we don't have 35 cameras actually helps, because as you rightly pointed out, you take the Lions, you might have 7 different options in one corner. So, hopefully it'll be a bit more straightforward for us.
Well, you've done this all over the world. A Friday night in rainy Glasgow doing Pro 14, or the MLR Final in the Coliseum, LA, 80 degrees. What are you picking?
That's a really tough call, that, Dan.
I'll give you an extra 2 cameras and you're coming back.
All day long. Honestly, this is just brilliant. And, that's the point. I mean, it doesn't matter, which events or tournaments you've worked on. To be a part of this, and the way the MLR is developing, it's absolutely brilliant, and it's just a pleasure for me to be here and to be working on it.
Well, I definitely know I speak for all the talent that's been involved, and I hope all the other people as well. The absolute privilege it's been to have you here. I know you don't like being in the spotlight, you don't like the praise, but I think for fans who've enjoyed watching MLR on the national games, on Rugby Network, you deserve a lot of credit for the standards that you've brought and the lifting and quality that you've had and the influence you've had in the game here. And I'm forever grateful for getting an opportunity to work with the great Rhys Edwards. I'm looking forward to a summer beer in Cardiff eventually. And
goes
tomorrow,
out saying, Dan.
One more, Rhys. We got one more and we're done.
Much appreciated, Dan. Really, thank you very much.
Do you want to suck up too? I did enough.
I'm not doing the game tomorrow, so I don't have to suck up. He's not going to be shouting at me.
There we go. All right.
I think we're okay.
All right, we'll step away for a little break, and then when we get back, we're going to start previewing the big one, the big dance. It's LA and Atlanta, and it'll be all coming up after this.
Bryce on the outside, DTH again. Fundamental gets a double within the first 8 minutes.
The ball carrier there was Ryan James, and here come the Giltinis.
Oh, wow. I think we may have a similar penalty coming up for the Blue Jacks.
In the back line, oh, wow. Great fake. Now they get rid of it. Here they come. Another pass, and it's going to be taken in. And
Your heroes, they'll only disappoint you. And Brad Tucker, I hope I don't disappoint you here in the next couple of minutes. What a pleasure it must be for you to be on my show. Our show.
It's outstanding to be here with you and Pete, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Restraining, those who are curious, the restraining order did get, we've got a couple of the finest, LAPD's finest here, keeping an eye, make sure I don't try to grab Brad and run away, but it's been dropped, so don't send your messages in. Brad is safe. He will blink 4 times quickly if he feels unsafe, and I'll disappear quickly. But 2019 Player of the Year, Brad Tucker, no stranger to most people on the show. Brad, let's talk a little bit about you personally. Tough year for you, mate. The injury bug unfortunately bit you this year, and a tough year for Seattle. Physically, how are you feeling now?
Coming right, mate. It's obviously... It was a frustrating season, as you just mentioned, and it happens to all of us. You've been there, you guys have been there with rugby, and sometimes it just gets on top of you and beats you down. I think coming off, obviously we'd had a long time off. I just feel like body was a bit soft and didn't handle everything, and it broke. So big off season and come back and charging to go. And obviously for the team, we were hit by the injury bug across the board. But look, we've built well. Clarkie's come in, and anyone that's watched us knows we're tuning back in the right direction, so no complaints here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was going to be involved in this interview.
I'm starstruck.
Just so everyone knows that since I flew in this morning, and since I turned up, like, Dan and Brad have literally been almost inseparable. Like they've been walking off together, like off to the beach, walking. So I wasn't sure I was going to be involved in this, but I'm happy. I'm very happy for Brad to be here. So let's talk a little bit about the game tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk. And so one of the big matchups is going to be in the line-out.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit? I mean, you played LA twice, you played Atlanta once, but in particular, like Dave Dennis, great line-out operator, captain. Can you talk a little bit about why LA is so good in the line-out, and in particular scoring from the line-out?
Yeah, I just think, their line-out's being run by one of the shrewdest operators in the league, and you look at a guy like Dave Dennis, and you just look at his experience and what he's already achieved in his career, and then to bring that into a new team in LA like he's done this year. And you've just seen right from day dot, they were a pest on defense and they were great on attack out of their line-out. And you see when LA's playing awesome rugby, they're winning great line-out ball and they're scoring epic tries first, second phase off the line-out. And I think they're just delightful to watch when they're scoring those tries off the line-out play. So I think line-out's going to be huge tomorrow. And saying that, Atlanta are a force at line-out time as well. They've got some big options in there, and I see obviously Momsen and whatnot are going to be in there. They're in the fight all day, so LA's work's going to be cut out for them, but I think it's going to be a great battle in there.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked with Dave Dennis and Darren Coleman, because last week, I mean, there was a moment when I think they'd won 7 lineouts and lost 7 lineouts, and one of the things that LA do is they go very quickly in the lineouts, right? And so that requires really, really strong communication. And with the lineup just a little bit different, there were a few guys a little slow on the left in particular, that I think really impacted them. So I think they've probably put a lot of time into that. Like, going up against them, if you relax, the ball's up and gone.
Oh, I mean, I've been playing in a game against them. You guys aren't even set, and they're in and out of there. So you know that they're trying to do it. I think Cottrell coming back is going to help there. I mean, he's pretty decent in the line-out as well. Just gives them more options. And anyone that's been in a line-out knows the more threats they have there, the more difficult it is to defend. So it's going to be a big part of the game tomorrow.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the whole week, because 2019, Seattle underdogs go into San Diego, and you win the game, last play of the game, right? You score a try, win the game. How is that week for you? Like, what are the LA and the Atlanta players going through right now, 24 hours removed from this game?
Well, I think there's 2 ways you come out of a semi-final, and one way is you're kind of expected to win, so you're relieved, and then you've got that. God, thankfully we got through to the final. Then you switch back on, let's go. And the other team, well, I think both these teams were the favourites to make the final this year, but so they're both probably going to be in that mindset. And then obviously you just start getting excited, and especially Atlanta travelling into LA. It's a bit different for LA being here already. I think you can slightly go through your normal routine a bit more, but travelling as we did last year, coming into San Diego. I think the key is to build the hype throughout the week, and I'm sure Atlanta will have done that.
You think it's a detriment being here for LA? Like,
nah, not at all.
Like, you almost feel the energy lifting because you get on the plane. You know, to the big stadium. For LA, this is their home ground. It's so familiar. It's just another game, or do you think Atlanta can now harness the energy? Like you said, like you're on the road, like this is a big game. It kind of builds in the favour of the underdog.
Yeah, look, I think Atlanta will be using that in their favour to bring the energy that way, but I've no doubt LA have got some tricks up their sleeves in terms of their preparation and building their week the right way so that they're peaking at the right time as well. And you look at their roster, they're full of experienced guys. Yeah. I mean, I'd be extremely surprised if they weren't fizzing to go.
Get caught napping. Yep.
Well, I think if we look at the game tomorrow, Brad, what do you think the keys are? I mean, LA are the favourites. I mean, I think we can say they're the favourites. Atlanta are strong, but I don't think have had a stronger season. Obviously, LA have a couple more wins, but also LA just have that explosive attack. If you were coming in for Atlanta, where do you think you need to win? Which areas of the game do you need to win?
I think
to be able to win the game? Set
piece. Obviously, the lineup we talked about. If Atlanta can keep LA under pressure like they were last week, they're going to be in the game all day. If LA can provide the good ball and really strike with that backline in the midfield, then it's going to be an open running game. Atlanta's kicking, they're going to look to slow the game down and kick the ball in corners and back their set piece, and that's going to be on LA to counter that and run it back. We're going to see exciting rugby no matter what. The midfield's going to be an interesting battle for me with Nell coming back in last week. And then obviously you've got Meeks and Ashley Cooper in there, so it's going to be interesting. Atlanta need to slow LA down there, which they did last time they played. And LA will be trying to take advantage of Atlanta out there and create space for Ashley Cooper and then get it out into the widths.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because without JP Smith at prop, right, that's a big loss. They put Charlie Abel, who is normally a tight head. He's now going to be playing loose head, right? There's actually a real opportunity for Rugby ATL to put some pressure on that scrum to not give LA that attacking platform to get over the gain line, to get that go forward ball, because they do such a good job of getting over the gain line, getting the forwards around the corner, and then being able to read the space, whether it's Goddard coming back weak or whether they're able to go, like, they just play so quickly you can't set your defense. I think the interesting thing for me is the ruck. And the defensive ruck of Rugby ATL, where they can slow the ball down but not give away penalties. They give away more penalties than anyone else in the ruck, so that's going to be a challenge for them.
Yeah, and I think ATL, we've talked about that, and obviously you can't afford to give LA field position all day. In saying that, LA will attack from anywhere all day, we know that, but if Atlanta can not give away too many penalties, still get away with slowing that ball over, maybe Heaton getting a few turnovers in there, I mean, that's going to put pressure on LA.
Yeah, I mean, when Atlanta beat LA, they had 36% possession and 60% territory. So they were literally, just like you said, here's the ball, we're just going to play defense.
Yeah.
They made over 200, I think they had 220-something tackles. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, they literally just gave the ball away and said they're going to lead with their defense. So, I mean, it's a risky move against this LA team, but it worked that first time. I think you're right. I think we'll probably see some of it again.
Yeah, two good kickers and a great defense. Two good kickers on the Atlanta team, maybe even more, and a great defense versus an excitement machine. It's two of the great different ways to play rugby, so it's going to be an exciting game tomorrow.
Still can't believe you're here. Just second touch. Sorry, spaced out a bit. Hey, I'll leave you with the last one, and we'll let you get back to your off-season. Who has to be the man of the match for both teams to win the game? So LA wins, who's your player of the match? Atlanta wins, who's your player of the match to get it done?
It's a tough one.
Dan, by the way, as you're thinking about it, I'm just going to tell you, Dan throws this into, like, we just talk about, hey, what are we going to do on the show? And then he just throws questions like this right into it.
All right.
I like genuine, like, raw.
Okay, well, it's a great question.
Thank you, Bradley.
I don't know how genuine my answer can be. I got to be Matt Giddo for me from LA.
Yep.
I think if Matt Giddo, I grew up watching Matt Giddo, and he was my favourite Australian rugby player growing up. So if Matt Giddo has a stormer tomorrow, LA win. And Atlanta, unfortunately, I have to be biased. I've got a mate in Atlanta, so on the wing, if Tarangatea has a good game, scores a few tries, get those feet going, I think we could have some excitement out there for Atlanta as well. So those are my two to watch.
I don't know if he's playing, is he? Is he hurt?
Waitokia?
Yeah, Waitokia.
Oh. I don't know.
Well,
so not much of a mate then?
If Waitokia is not playing...
Live television, folks. Hold the phone. I'm going to look at the roster real quickly. Go on, Bradley. You're doing great.
Waitokia isn't playing.
If Waitokia isn't playing,
I mean, I know you're a forward, but you could have the same argument with Coleman, right?
I think Coleman coming in at 10, his kicking. Escura and Coleman's kicking in.
I think so. I think you're right. I mean, Escura's left foot, Coleman's left foot.
I think they complement each other.
They complement each other really well. I think if those two, it's different because Matt Giddo, I think, has to be on the front foot, right? If he's on, when you said, does he have a stormer? That means he's on the front foot. That means the forwards are getting fast ball to him. They've got that solid set piece. I think that with Atlanta, it's actually about the kicking game.
Yeah.
If Escura and Coleman have a great kicking game, well, I think they have to have a great kicking game for ATL to win.
Not playing.
Not playing.
Yeah, close friends, you two.
Oh, sorry, T. Yeah. Sorry, mate.
Sorry to,
I'll flick you a text.
Apologise to him. And
I said sorry, T.
Down the camera.
Sorry,
Look, that
T.
one. Down it there.
Sorry, T.
Sorry, T.
I hope you get well, buddy.
Tucker. I'll take care of him later. All right, Brad. Appreciate it. Enjoy the game tomorrow. It's great to have you here. Obviously, looking forward to seeing you back on the field, though not up here with us. Not yet. You've got a couple of good years left in you. Good luck for the off-season. Excited to see you back in MLR next year.
Thanks,
I think there's one thing, Dan, that maybe Brad and I can do. I don't know that you can do. We need to make some predictions.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's hear it. I'm going to defer. Obviously, I'll be doing the game tomorrow, so sitting on the fence, which I've pretty much done all year.
Yeah, you pretty much have done it. I mean, in some of our podcasts, Dan's like, "Oh, I'm calling that game," and afterwards we're like, "Oh, he's not calling that game. He just didn't want to make the choice." So I think I'm going to go with LA. But I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be in the 20s, which is where that balance is. And I think the game's going to be like 24-20 to LA, so very close.
Yeah, I was going to say LA by less than 5. But in saying that, I think it's going to be a great game of footy. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think JP Doyle wins tomorrow.
JP.
The American audience gets to see the magic of JP Doyle. There you go. There's my winner. Safe bet, the officials. Friends with the officials, Brad. All right, that will wrap us up here, and show 100 in the books. Obviously, Pete, myself, Aaron Casho appreciate the sport through 100 shows, but this one wraps it up. Make sure everyone tunes in tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern on CBS, so 1 p.m. Pacific kickoff local time here in LA. It's LA taking on Atlanta for the MLR Championship in 2021. We'll be back next week to wrap it all up, probably not with the same pomp and circumstances today on the usual format. And Pete, I think our Give Us a Jersey, there's been over, 50,000 entries, so we've got to filter through them. We'll announce the winner next week. Pete, anything else? Final thoughts?
That's been great to be here. Thanks to Brad and to the staff and coaches from both teams and to Reese and the guests. It's been great. Wonderful to be here. Excited for the game tomorrow and looking forward to hearing your lovely voice, Dan.
Thank you, Pete. For Pete Steinberg, the Professor, 2019 Player of the Year, Ross Neal, not Forward of the Year, String Bean, Brad Tucker, our entire crew. I'm Dan Powell. This has been the MLR Kickoff. We'll see you tomorrow at the championship, folks. Till then.